Tariff threats are flying in all directions. The US had just managed to stitch together a truce with China, now upping the ante against the European Union. An old dispute over aircraft subsidies. The US releasing a new list of goods up for tariffs worth $4 billion. It includes metals, cheese, cherries and whiskey. The Distilled Spirits Council of the United States warns duties would jeopardize American jobs and hurt consumers. The World Trade Organization has found the two biggest plane makers, Boeing and Airbus, received billions of dollars of harmful subsidies. It's yet to make a ruling. Well, let's talk about the world's largest ever corporate trade dispute with Matthew Moore from our business desk. So, Matthew, the WTO's taking care of this, a dispute that's taken almost 15 years, and now Trump's taking it into his own hands.
Well, that's right. Basically, this has been going on for years and years and years, and at the heart of this question was, should companies like Boeing and Airbus be receiving government state subsidies? And they had to prove, the US and the EU had to prove that the Airbus and Boeing, respectively, were losing business, that it was harming trade. And it's taken so long, and it's part of the reason that these things, there's so much unhappiness with the WTO. And so Donald Trump has said he's waiting for the WTO to make a final announcement on this, but they've released, the US trade representative has released this list that's saying, you know, as soon as, if we don't get an answer, we're going to impose these trade tariffs immediately. Both
sides are at fault here. I mean, Boeing is subsidised by the US, Airbus by the EU. Should either of them be getting this aid?
That's the question that they've obviously been battling over for the last 15 years. There's mechanisms by which governments can give aid to companies to stimulate development. The key at the heart of it is whether or not that aid harms a rival competitor. Now, if you're wanting to do business, you've got to have a level playing field. And that's been at the heart of the WTO, but obviously there's different ideas of what that constitutes.
And the hard thing is to work out who's getting harmed, in which country, which company, and there are a lot of players at stake, obviously, not just Boeing and Airbus. But doesn't this all cry out for WTO reform? That's what Trump's been trying to get all along.
Yeah, well, you know, the WTO hasn't been spared from Donald Trump's smash-it-up approach to the world, frankly. He said that if they don't shape up, he's out, and that was threatening to withdraw last year, and that shook the world, frankly, in terms of all the 164 members of the WTO. Look, at the heart of it, they're upset that they think it's kind of rigged against the US. The US is the biggest economy, it's the richest, and it should get more of a say. But the appeals body is not run like that, and he thinks that they should have more judges so that the US wins more of these cases. It will, things like this will fuel calls for reform, but as I say, with 164 members,
even getting reform is going to be hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to the tariffs, just briefly. Who's going to hurt most from these additional, or these threats of additional $4 billion in tariffs?
Well, the US future stocks plummets have dipped. The future share stocks have dipped a little. US Distilled Spirits Council has criticised the tariffs announced last night. Says that they're going to negatively impact farmers, retailers. They actually, a lot of their membership are EU-based drinks companies as well. No, they don't want it. The US is obviously, or the EU rather, has announced counter tariffs earlier this year. They're obviously really worried about the US coming after EU cars, which would massively damage economies like Germany if the US starts applying tariffs. So who will suffer more is hard to say, but I mean, both sides don't want to get there, I imagine.
OK, it's a conflict that's just getting worse, and I guess what we need is someone to pour a hose on all of this, pour some water on this.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe the WTO will find a resolution.
Hopefully soon.
Yes.
Matthew, thank you very much for coming in.